Hello dears, good morning. This is me Srija and I will be teaching you biology. Today we are discussing the first chapter in biology, chapter 5, fundamental unit of life. As you all know, what is the fundamental unit of life? Yes, cells. So cells are the fundamental units of life. Cells are the basic structural and functional unit of all living organisms. And all living organisms are made up of these tiny structures which are called cells. Okay, and cells are microscopic, very minute things which we can see only through a microscope. We cannot see the cell with our unaided eyes. Okay, so in this lesson, we are learning about cells, the different components of cells. Okay, inside the cell there are different structures and cell organelles are there inside the cell. We will be learning about all these cell organelles in detail. So as we are learning about cells can be seen only through a microscope. So first let me show you a microscope through which we can see the cell. Look here children, this is a compound microscope. Okay, so this compound microscope is used in labs. Usually in all labs compound microscope is used to see the structure of cells. Cells are minute things, so the simple microscope, through simple microscope we cannot see the cell structure clearly. So this is a compound microscope used in labs. Okay, now I will tell you the different parts of the microscope. Here this is the eyepiece through which we look into the object. Okay, so this is the eyepiece. So the difference is compound microscope uses compound system, that is two lenses are used to magnify the object. To see it more clearly, two lenses are used. The first one is the eyepiece lens through which we look into the thing, and the next lens is the objective lens. Here you can see one more lens. This is the objective lens. So in compound microscope, two types of lenses are used. The first one is the eyepiece lens and the second is the objective lens. Now, so the object which we are going to see can be magnified two times because two lenses are there, eyepiece lens and objective lens. Now, this is the arm of the microscope. Okay, this is the arm of the microscope and this is the body of the microscope, this one, and this is the base where we put the object under the lens. This is the surface where we put the slide or the object to see, and through here we look, then we can see the object through this objective lens. And here you can see a mirror. I think you can see it clearly. Here a mirror is also there to reflect the light and it makes it more, the object more clear. So this is a mirror. Here a mirror is also used, and this part is the base of the microscope. This is the base part. Okay, so this is the main parts of a compound microscope, and you can see some knobs here, both sides. Two knobs you can see. This is the adjustment, core adjustment and fine adjustment. You can adjust this like this, that is you can focus the object by turning these knobs. Two knobs are there to adjust the focal length of the lens. So you can focus using this adjustment so that you can see it clearly. See, like this, and you can adjust these knobs by turning this like this. So these two are the adjustment knobs, fine adjustment and core adjustment. Like this you can turn these knobs and adjust the lens like this, and you can put the slide which is to be seen here in the base. Here you can put the slide and you can look through this eyepiece. then it will be, you can get a magnified image of the object. Okay, clear? So this is a compound microscope, and compound microscope is used to see the cells and cell structure in labs. In the last class, we have discussed about the discovery of cell, right? Who discovered cell? Robert Hooke. Robert Hooke discovered cell. Robert Hooke in 1665. So, in the last class we have discussed about the discovery of cell and cell theory. Cell theory and modern cell theory, and about different types of cells. So, there are different types of cells according to their nature and shape, according to their shape, okay, and the shape of the cells differ according to their functions to perform. So that all we learned in the last class. In today's class, we are discussing about the main parts of a cell, okay. So each cell consists of mainly 3 parts, that they are cell membrane, nucleus and cytoplasm, okay. So what are the main parts of a cell? Cell membrane, or otherwise called plasma membrane, okay. Both are same, okay. Cell membrane or plasma membrane. Next is nucleus and cytoplasm. These are the 3 main components in a cell. As you know, what is cell membrane? It is the thin outer covering of the cell which protect the cell, okay. Cell membrane, the function of cell membrane is the protection of the cell. It gives the thin outer covering and it gives protection to the cell, and also cell membrane gives shape to the cell, and it also holds the cell together, holds the cell and its components together, okay. So that is cell membrane. And as you know, nucleus is the center part of the cell, which is the control center of a cell, which is the headquarters in a cell, which controls all the activities inside the cell. And next is the cytoplasm, which is the jelly-like substance, fluid we can see inside the cell, okay. So these are the main 3 components of a cell together with cell organelles. So inside the cell you can see many different structures to perform different actions or different activities, okay. So each cell has different activities to perform inside the cell. For that, each cell consists of different cell organelles. So in this lesson, first we will be learning about cell membrane, nucleus and cytoplasm, along with some cell organelles such as lysosomes, ribosomes, mitochondria, endoplasmic reticulum, etc. Each we will discuss later, okay. So these are the main components of cell and along with cell organelles, okay. Now first we will be discussing about cell membrane in detail. Children, look at this chart. This is a chart showing the animal cell, okay. Animal cell and different parts of animal cell you can see here in the chart. These are the structure of some cell organelles. As I told you, nucleus, which is the center part, which is the control center of the cell. Now endoplasmic reticulum is there. Now mitochondria, plasma membrane or cell membrane, ribosomes, lysosomes, centriole, these are all the parts of a cell. So look here, this is the structure of the plasma membrane. Plasma membrane or cell membrane is the outermost covering of the cell which protects the cell and gives shape to the cell, and plasma membrane also holds the cell together, okay. So this is the structure of the plasma membrane. Like this, 3 layers are there in the plasma membrane, which consist of lipids and proteins, glycoprotein, proteins and lipids. Lipids means they are a different type of fats. Okay, lipids means fats. Okay, so this plasma membrane is made up of proteins and lipids, and this plasma membrane is flexible. It can be flexible, and then it is very useful for an organism to change the shape of the cell. Okay, so the cell is covered by this plasma membrane, and in the center, as you can see, this is the nucleus. This is the nucleus of the cell. So first we will be learning about plasma membrane in detail. As I told you, plasma membrane is flexible and it is made up of proteins and lipids. Proteins and lipids. Lipids are fats. Plasma membrane is flexible and is made up of proteins and lipids. Now, another important point you have to remember about the plasma membrane is plasma membrane is selectively permeable membrane. Very important. It is selectively permeable membrane. Plasma membrane is selectively permeable. Selectively permeable means the plasma membrane allows the entry and exit of certain materials only. Okay, so it selects the things which has to enter or the things to go out of the cell. Clear? So that is why plasma membrane is called selectively permeable membrane. Very important point about cell membrane or plasma membrane. So why plasma membrane is called a selectively permeable membrane? Because it allows the exit and entry of certain materials. It selects the material. For example, if some harmful object is there outside the cell, it prevents the entry of that things into the cell. Okay, as I told you, the function of plasma membrane is protection of the cell. So it prevents the entry of these harmful subjects entering into the cell. Like that, inside the cell some excretory wastes are produced. During excretion, some waste materials like carbon dioxide is also produced inside the cell. So these waste substances should be released out to the cell. So what this plasma membrane will do? Plasma membrane allow that harmful substances or waste substances to exit, or it excrete that waste materials out of the cell. But inside the cell there are nutrients, oxygen and all needed things are there. So plasma membrane will not allow that things to go out of the cell. So that is why plasma membrane is called selectively permeable membrane. I will explain once more why plasma membrane is called selectively permeable membrane. Because plasma membrane allows the entry and exit of certain substances in and out of the cell. That is why plasma membrane is called selectively permeable membrane. Clear? Okay. Now, next, moving on to the next topic about cell membrane is, in this cell membrane, through this cell membrane, the exchange of gases and other substances are happening. Okay, so cell membrane is a gate, act as a gate for the exit and entry of certain substances into the cell. So how this transport of materials happens in the cell, that we are going to discuss now. Here mainly two processes are happening. First one is diffusion. Diffusion. Two important terms you have to remember. First one is diffusion and the second is osmosis. So first one is diffusion and second is osmosis. These are the two processes which allows the substances to get in and out of the cell. So first we will see diffusion. Okay, I will tell you the definition. Okay, diffusion is the spontaneous movement of a substance from a region of higher concentration to a region of lower concentration. So diffusion is it is happening inside the cell. Okay, so diffusion is the spontaneous movement of substances from a region of higher concentration to the region of lower concentration. So that is why the substances are passing through the cell membrane, and diffusion happens in all mediums like solid, liquid and gas. Okay, so diffusion is a spontaneous movement. It is very fast, spontaneous movement, and it happens in solids, liquid and gas. So in diffusion, solid particles, liquid particles and gas particles or molecules can be transferred from in and out of the cell. That is diffusion, spontaneous movement of substances. And there are many examples we can tell for diffusion. One is when we spray a perfume in the air. Okay, when we sprayed a perfume, the smell of the perfume spread in the air spontaneously, right? Yes, that is an example for diffusion. Another example I will show you now. Look here, a beaker containing some water. Now I am going to put a drop of ink into the water. Okay, now what happens? See what happens. This ink spontaneously spreads in the water, right? As you can see here, it spreads in the water. This is an example of diffusion. Okay, so diffusion can be seen. See now the color of the water become blue. So it is a quick process. Diffusion is a quick process, and see, it is when a drop of ink is poured into the water, the concentration of the ink is higher, okay, and than the water. So it spreads. The concentration of the ink is higher, so it spreads in the water. This is an example of diffusion. Okay, as you can see, now the water became blue in color. So the ink spreads into the water very quickly. This is an example of diffusion. And another example, as I told you, when we sprayed a perfume in the air, the smell of the perfume spreads in the air very spontaneously. Okay, that is also another example for diffusion. So this is what happens in diffusion. Spontaneous movement of substances, both in solid, liquid and gas, it can happen. Clear? Okay. Now another is osmosis. This is also a peculiar or a special type of diffusion, but in osmosis the process is slow. Okay, osmosis is a slow process, and osmosis is the movement of water molecules. Okay, it is the movement of water molecules. Only in water molecules osmosis happens. Only in liquids. It is the movement of water molecules through a semi-permeable membrane. So here in osmosis, semi-permeable membrane is necessary. That is cell wall. Through a semi-permeable membrane. So osmosis happens only through a semi-permeable membrane, whereas in diffusion, semi-permeable membrane is not necessary. Semi-permeable membrane is not necessary. It can happen through semi-permeable membrane also, but it is not necessary in diffusion. Okay, through any membrane the substance can be transferred or passed, right? Okay, so these are the differences. So osmosis is the process. It is a slow process. It is the movement of water molecules through a this is very important, okay, through a semi-permeable membrane from a region of higher concentration to the region of lower concentration, okay. So in both cases the transferring happens from a region of high concentration to the region of lower concentration, but in diffusion it is a very spontaneous movement and it happens in solid, liquid and gases, and semi-permeable membrane is not necessary in diffusion. Whereas in osmosis it is a slow process, only water molecules moves in osmosis and it needs a semi-permeable membrane for the transfer or the transport of water molecules. So these are the main differences between diffusion and osmosis, okay. Now let us discuss about osmosis in detail. Now I am going to tell you some examples of osmosis, okay. As you can see here, this is a dried resin. It is a resin. It is a normal resin, and this one I have kept in water overnight, okay. So you can see the difference, right? This one swells up, which has been put in the water for a night, that swells up and it is become big in shape. This is an example of osmosis, that is water is absorbed by this resin. Now it has become swells up and big in size. So this is a normal resin, okay. So this is an example of osmosis, and we can see many examples of osmosis around us. The absorption of water through root cells. Root cells absorb water. That is also another example of osmosis. And another one, unicellular organisms gain water through osmosis. Unicellular organisms gains water through the process of osmosis. And another example is when we are in water for long time, or when we wash dishes for a long time, our hands will become like blurted, like wrinkled, right? It is also an example of osmosis, because the skin cells absorbs water, okay, through the process of osmosis. Skin cells absorb water through osmosis. That is why our fingers, the skin of our fingers become wrinkled. That is also another example for osmosis. So you can see different examples around us for osmosis and diffusion. So these are the two main processes through which the substances are transferred in and out of the cell through cell membrane, okay. Now in osmosis, the amount of substance dissolved in water is also affected, okay. So osmosis changes according to the amount of substance dissolved in water. For example, there are mainly three types of solutions we can say. We can take 3 glass filled with water and we are going to put an animal cell or a plant cell in this, okay. So this is the solution. Here we are going to put an animal or a plant cell. For example, this is the cell. We are going to put it in this water. Now in the first case, here the water I am taking, suppose I am taking diluted sugar solution, okay. Here this is the diluted sugar solution. And this one is the concentrated sugar solution, okay. And here it is also a normal water. This one is the normal water, okay. So when we put a plant cell in diluted sugar solution, okay, so what happens is, here in this diluted solution water content is high. Okay, sugar is less. Am I clear, children? In diluted sugar solution, water content is high. So what happens? This water enters into the cell through osmosis. That is, inside the cell, the concentration of sugar is higher than the outside water. Okay, so now what happens? Water enters to the cell through this cell membrane. This is the cell membrane. So water enters into the cell. And here in the second case, here it is the concentrated sugar solution. That is, water is less, sugar content is high. Then what happens? Here sugar content is high, then water from the cell enters into the solution. So water enters into the solution. Okay, so here the cell will gain water and it swells up. It increases the size. So cell size will be more in this case. But here the cell loses water and shrinks. It shrinks. The cell size will become small. The cell shrinks. Okay. Now the water coming out of the cell. But here the same content, water content inside and outside the medium, both are same. Okay. So here there is no net movement of water particles because inside the cell and in the solution the water content is same. So there will be no movement of water in and out of the cell. So these are the three examples of osmosis. So in the first case, here the medium has a higher water concentration than the cell. Okay, inside the cell water is less and outside the cell, that is in the solution, in the medium, water is high. So what happens? Water goes into the cell and swells up. The cell become big in size, and this type of solution is called hypotonic solution. Okay, in the solution where the water content is higher than the cell, then that solution is called hypotonic solution. And this process of water going into the cell is called endosmosis. Endosmosis. So these are two types of osmosis. First one is endosmosis. That is, water is movement of water into the cell. So from this medium, the water moves inside the cell. Movement of water into the cell. That is called endosmosis. Now look at here in the second solution, water content is lower. So inside the cell more water is there. Here in the medium water concentration is low. Okay. So what happens? The cell loses water. From the cell water comes into the solution. Such type of a solution is called hypertonic solution. And this process is called exosmosis. Exosmosis. That is water going out of the cell. From the cell water is coming out, and that process is called exosmosis. And in the third solution, the water content is same inside the cell and in the medium. In both these cases, water content is same inside the cell and in the medium. The water content is same. Clear? Now what happens? There will be no movement of water, and such a solution is called isotonic solution. Isotonic solution. In isotonic solution, movement of water does not happen and the cell stay in the same size. Okay? There will be no change in the size of the cell. Cell remains in the same size. That is isotonic solution. So these are the three different types of solutions, and this is the example of osmosis. And there are two types of osmosis, endosmosis and exosmosis. In endosmosis, water enters into the cell. The movement of water into the cell is called endosmosis, and in exosmosis, the movement of water out of the cell. That is called exosmosis. Okay. Now I hope this topic is clear for you. Let us wind up the class for today. Meet you in the next class. Bye.